I'm going to try something a little bit different today. So let me first give a little bit of context, and then I'd love to hear what you think. As many of you guys know, I really enjoy taking ideas and breaking them down and giving them my own sort of personal spin. I find that extremely enjoyable, and I find that leads to sort of a deeper understanding for me on my own life experiences and what I'm going through. And recently, I've been making a greater effort to almost visualize concepts. This is the potential to become a new series that I'd like to call, very simply, Concepts. One final thing I'm going to say before I dive into this first episode, if you will, is that there is kind of no finish line. These ideas can always be further developed upon, further deepened. I think I'm mainly trying to just start conversations and almost like better understand what's going on in my own head. I basically have some paper or really a journal and a pen with me here, and I'm going to draw out how I kind of conceptualize failure, okay? I'm going to call this How Failure Works. All right, so we're going to call this life, okay? And then let's say something bad happens, some sort of failure of any kind, really. Let's say you screwed up on something, okay? So we're going to call this right here the failure in and itself. It could be something dumb that you said in the office. Something didn't go according to plan, maybe you screwed up, it can be anything. However, it is important to separate the failure in and of itself, from something else. So I just added to this dip, okay, and made this small dip into a much, much, much deeper dip, let's say 10 times deeper. And I'm calling it everything that you add on psychologically. So that can be regret. It can be self-doubt. Really, it can be anything. It can be anything that you add on to the experience of the failure in and of itself. So let's just take a small example, one that I alluded to earlier. Let's say you said something dumb in the office and it hurt somebody's feelings, okay? That is the failure in and of itself. But then you can go ahead and spiral in self-doubt or endlessly regret your action or fear the reactions of everyone else in the office. All of that you're adding on to the act in and of itself. However, this failure cannot last forever, okay? And no matter how deep this goes, it will come to an end in some form or another, right? And eventually, you end up back at this point. Now, at this point, life can just continue, or something else can happen. Okay, so what I've just done here is add a dotted line now in the other direction that comes after this failure. And what I'm writing here, as I see things, is that the effects of a failure can be reversed and made positive if taken as an opportunity to learn and grow. So there's almost like a rebound effect that is potentially possible, not certain, but it's based off of your actions and your kind of perspective on things after the fact. Now, the consequences of this dotted line, this potential, let's call it opportunity to grow, is huge. I'm going to add 2 more thoughts that I had regarding this. The first additional thought that I've written down here is that the bigger the failure, the greater the difficulty learning from and reversing the effects, but also the greater the potential long-term positive effect. That's my first note, and here's the second. And this is the idea that excites me the most, is that the paradox is that a failure is only defined as such by the actions taken after the fact. You have the opportunity to walk away from the entire experience, not even considering it a failure in the first place. So my conclusions are twofold. The first is that you can actually do a lot to mitigate the potential negative impact of a failure, of a mistake, of screwing up. And that you can do simply by being mindful of all of the psychological BS that you can inflict upon yourself. That's the first takeaway. The second is that by taking the opportunity to reflect and to make changes, to correct, you can lead yourself to a long-term positive impact. And when that happens, you really can't even consider this a failure in the first place. It's almost like the complexion of the experience itself is dependent on how you think about it, how you treat it, how you approach it. I'm sure this will not surprise very many of you, but I have been looking for ways to consume information and to keep up with the news in really simple ways outside of the mainstream media cycle and social media. It just gets really chaotic and aggressive really quick. And that is why I want to talk about Morning Brew, who are sponsoring this video. The concept is really simple. Morning Brew is a free daily newsletter that comes out Monday through Saturday. This is part of an attempt to avoid aimlessly scrolling on social media, for example, in the morning. And I like that Morning Brew concisely covers the main stories in like business and tech news in a really succinct, oftentimes humorous way. I sort of just want to get a general idea of what's going on and continue with my day. And so this newsletter really helps to do that. It's perfect if you're interested in finance, tech, or business. I'm starting to think that newsletters are the way to go. Plus it's completely free and it takes like 15 seconds to subscribe. So I will leave a link in the description below that you can check out if you're interested. And thank you to Morning Brew for sponsoring this video. So I briefly wanted to just talk about the value that I think exists in the exercise that I sort of illustrated earlier on in this video. I think it is just so incredibly powerful to develop the practice of articulating and sort of bringing to life your ideas, the things that happen in your head. This really is a topic that I could talk about endlessly. I think it's fascinating how ideas translate. And how we may think we have an understanding of something, but how good is your understanding of an idea really if you're unable to explain it to somebody else, right? And I'm increasingly intrigued by the process of how ideas get refined and improved over time. I've been thinking a lot about the kinds of skills that we need to develop in the 21st century to stay, I don't want to use the word relevant, but to stay valuable in a very competitive world. Artificial intelligence is going to have an enormous impact on all of our lives. It already does, in terms of so much of the complex decision making that happens worldwide, in terms of algorithms. It really is already very present in all of our lives. And so when thinking about skills that will be relevant and useful, I'm thinking like very basic things, like the ability to take notes, the ability to communicate your ideas, the ability to test your ideas and improve your ideas over time. Things like that. They're simple things, and yet they're things that we can all get better at, and they can have a tremendous positive impact on all of our lives. So I just wanted to share those ideas to give a little bit of context as to why I'm doing this, both privately and now publicly, by sharing these ideas. And I'm excited to see how this process of putting it out there and reading your comments and getting your feedback and your perspectives can help accelerate almost this process of testing ideas and improving them. Let's just try to have conversations and see where it goes. And so I will see you guys in the comments. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you soon.